Welcome, Vault Dwellers. My name is Nacho Bidness, and we are approaching the most important location in Fallout New Vegas, the Hoover Dam, around which the entirety of the plot revolves. I just wanted to get a little bit further shot away from the dam, and then this is walking along the roadway along the top. To the right is the old visitor center. To the left is a flagpole and a monument. This flagpole is here in the real world, however the sculptures for the monument are a little bit different. As for the roadway across the top of the dam, of course there are no artillery pieces in the real world. However, these towers are certainly very interesting. They are a sniper post in game. There's a sniper that shoots at the president from up there, and on the inside is a bathroom. Now, what's missing from the in-game model is windows. There are windows in the real bathroom that have frosted glass, but they also can be opened, and in the summertime you can look out of them. Continuing further down the roadway, we can see that there's a couple more of those towers, but otherwise it is a repetition of more of the same along the road surface. Of course, in the real world, there are no sandbag barricades. It's not designed as a shooting gallery like in the game. As for the water intake towers, you can't actually go into them during certain parts of the quest. For the Battle of the Hoover Dam, I believe you have to be aligned with the NCR for that. Meanwhile, the view downriver is somewhat obstructed by this high guardrail, which is fine in the real world. It's obstructed too. You don't want to fall over the edge. Inside the dam, the galleries for the generators are longer and bigger with more generators, but there's not as many levels. They're a real-world power station as opposed to a video game level. As for this picture of the Hoover Dam, this almost looks like an aerial shot, right? But in actuality, this is taken from a bridge that now runs in front of the dam. You used to be able to drive across the dam. In fact, it was the only way to get across the Colorado River for many miles up and downstream. Nowadays, Interstate 11 crosses this bridge in front of the Hoover Dam, and this is a marvel of engineering in its own right. It's about 1,100 feet long and carries a ton of traffic across it. However, if you drive down Interstate 11, do not think that you will be able to see the dam from this bridge while you're in your car. The dam is lower than the roadway, and the guardrails and guard walls are kind of high, and so you can't really see anything off of the road, which is actually probably smart on the part of the designers so that people aren't slowing down constantly on this bridge to try and rubberneck and look. The good news is that there is a footbridge next to the main roadway that you can walk across, and that's how I got that picture that we started with of the dam from up high and out front. One side of the bridge is in Nevada and the Pacific time zone. Meanwhile, the other end is in Arizona and the Mountain Time Zone. As for the footpath itself, these walls on either side are about shoulder high, so no need to feel like you're going to fall off. Although, even then, if you do not have a head for heights, maybe not recommended for you. Certainly when a big 18-wheeler drives by, you can feel the bridge sway and shake, and although that is by design, an infinitely rigid bridge would shake itself apart and come to pieces over time, it still is very unnerving, especially if you don't like heights. Most people stop about halfway across, and I would also recommend that you do the same. I was determined to go all the way to the other side and back to my car, which is about 3/4 of a mile round trip. And when I got to the other end, there was nothing. A chain link fence, not even a bench to sit on. And because I hadn't taken any water and it was like 110 degrees outside, by the time I got back to my car, between the dehydration and the height, I was very close to vomiting. Even so, the view from the center of the span was worth it. I apologize for my finger in the corner of this vertical shot. It's not the greatest photo I've ever taken, but I had to hold my phone above the guardrail and actually over the edge so that I could get the Colorado River above and below the dam. You can see just how big of an elevation change there is between these two parts of the river right here at the dam. And so, vertical picture in finger or not, I still thought that this was kind of a neat shot and worth including. Another thing that you can see here is above the dam, you can see that white line along the rocks, and they call that the bathtub ring. It's the highest that the water level has gotten. And this picture was taken several years ago. Water levels are catastrophically low in the lake as we speak. Drought is having a major effect on the Colorado River, and if the western states cannot come to an agreement on how to manage that water, the consequences are going to be pretty dire. You heard me mention the old visitor center when we were looking at the in-game footage. This is the new visitor center, although it's actually kind of hard to see. It kind of blends in with the background, but it is in the middle of the picture here, and also includes a very large parking garage. Road traffic across the dam is extremely limited, and I cannot remember, but it may even be outright prohibited. So yeah, go ahead and park at the visitor center. The other thing that I wanted to point out in this picture that you probably aren't going to be able to see if you're watching on phone is just the forest of electrical towers that you can see here. Some of them are cantilevered over the canyon side at a 45-degree angle or more. There's another gigantic substation that is off in the distance there, and it all just kind of drives home just how much power this dam generates and how important it is to the local economy. Speaking of the roadway across the dam, I included this shot because this shows that road, and you can barely see it. Those specks on top of the dam are people that are walking along a full-size 2-lane road. They look like ants up there. Once you're on that roadway, you can walk up right to the edge and look out at the Colorado River downstream, pretty much anywhere along it. It is an extreme drop, and it's funny, when you look at the dam from further away, it almost looks like a very adventurous skateboarder might be able to ride the dam all the way down. But once you're actually standing there, you realize just how steep it is, and it is, again, a little bit nerve-wracking if you are nervous or bothered by heights. As for the upstream side, it is still a very long drop from the top of the dam to the surface of the water. It's much, much farther now. The water is way lower these days compared to when I took this picture. This also shows the water intake towers and that bathtub ring effect that I talked about earlier. During the in-game footage, you saw me run right up to these water intake towers from the top of the dam. However, in the real world, that is a restricted area and you're not allowed to approach them. That said, one detail that is here in the real world that I thought was neat, that was not in game, is that This west side set of towers has a clock that says Nevada time, and the east side set of towers has another clock that says Arizona time. Neither set of towers contained any attacking members of Caesar's Legion, though. The structures on the front side of the dam are in fact bathrooms, just like the one in game. You climb a set of stairs from this doorway that leads inside, and upstairs is a bathroom at the very tippy top. And unfortunately, the urinals were not on the same wall as the windows in the real world. Like, they're frosted glass, so you can't really see in or anything, but they open so you can look out. And I'm certain that would have been the most stunning view I'd ever had while I was taking a whiz. But the urinals are actually on the other side. I wish I could have taken some pictures in there, because they are a beautiful tile Art Deco bathroom. But it was a fairly busy day. There was never a point where there weren't other people in there, and I didn't want to be the weirdo taking pictures inside the bathroom. So far as I know, the only way to get down inside the dam is to take the tour. I would highly recommend to take the tour if you're there. Even if you're not a Fallout New Vegas fan, if you have an interest in engineering or history, it is worthwhile. I took this particular picture and had to brighten it up some because it was quite dark in a lot of the dam. However, you can see here that the dam itself is actually a fallout shelter. The tour did not include anything that I would call recognizable from the game as far as the offices and barracks and other places that the NCR occupies. It does take you into the bedrock around the dam, though, and there are some warnings about folks with claustrophobia maybe not taking the tour. I have a little touch of claustrophobia myself, but this was okay. It was never any worse than, say, a moderately crowded elevator. So don't let those warnings throw you off. I thought this was kind of a cool shot with that, armored looking door looking down a hallway of bedrock there. The generator room is certainly very recognizable compared to the in-game model. Major differences are obviously that we don't have multiple levels along both sides to form a shooting gallery, and there are many more generators in a single room than there were in game. And yet you can clearly see the inspiration that the game designers took from this room when they modeled the interior of the Hoover Dam. The final picture here is of some machinery and computer stations that also appear in-game. Now, they're not exact, but I thought it was a nice touch, just showing how faithfully and how well the game designers were modeling the interior of Hoover Dam within the limitations of a game engine that is, by today's standards, quite old. And there you have it. Fallout New Vegas Hoover Dam and Real World Hoover Dam. I think that the game designers really did an extremely faithful job of modeling the in-game dam compared to the real world. Obviously, the major change of the interstate is something that they did not get in-game, and yet I think that the old school Interstate 11 route across Hoover Dam makes more sense for the Fallout world. I also think that the only thing holding them back from having an even more accurate representation of the dam was simply the limitations of the game engine at the time. Interested to hear your thoughts below. If you like the video, be sure to hit the like button. I've got a lot more of these in real world videos coming, so be sure and subscribe and ring the bell. If you didn't like, tell me why in a comment so I can do better for you next time. Constructive criticism is how I improve. Thanks for watching.